The GMTK Game Jam is one of the biggest game jams of the year. It had over 10,000 game entries, and I thought it was the perfect opportunity to introduce my friends into game development. They have never made anything before, but even with that being the case and one of my really bad game development habits sneaking in, I do think the final result came out pretty good. Now the first step was figuring out what the game was going to be. The theme was Countdown. And the first things that came to mind was sort of making a countdown of the levels by having it be about going down the different layers of hell. And that didn't feel like enough of a theme implementation, so we also wanted to add a time stop mechanic that whenever you stop time, you had a limited amount of time that counted down before it resumed. Was that enough of like the theme being implemented into the game? Maybe. It felt good enough. So, for what the game itself was going to be, we narrowed it down to being a 2D platformer, where instead of like Mario, you jump on the enemies and such, the main mechanic would be having these bounce pads that you could spawn, and then you could use them to either hit the enemy or to just maneuver around the level. One of my friends was going to be in charge of doing all of the character bounce pad and final boss art. My other friend would be in charge of the coding, and I would be in charge of anything else that came up to make the game. With that settled, we were gonna start developing everything. But my friend who was in charge of coding gave a caveat that he said no matter what, he really wanted to add the rabbit from the meme, the like countdown one of like the thing I recognize it from is like the all roads lead to Rome. I don't know, it's from Alice in the Borderlands. But I'm like, I don't think we can really just put this image in there. So I made a variation that fit the hell theme more. And also, since he wanted this, a 6-7 version that would play whenever they went from the 6th level to the 7th level. As well as a body for it to be like an actual character within the game. Maybe an enemy, maybe a helpful NPC. We hadn't settled on it yet. But we designed that before anything else in the game. And after we did that, he did mention that like maybe I should work on what I want the levels to be like before implementing anything else. And he could start like coding like enemies and such. And I'm like, yeah, making levels would be good. Like, it is the foundation of the game. If the levels are bad, the game as a whole is going to be bad. But we have a lot of time. We had a lot of time. It was the first day. We had like, what, 4 days? So I decided, why not make the enemy art first? Now, I want to make 5 different enemies. The first one was going to be a basic guy, kind of like a Goomba, just a guy who walks back and forth. When he sees you, he chases you, and then he also hits you. And that's the first one, pretty simple, pretty basic. The second one's going to be one that I wanted to also start implementing the different ideas of the layers of hell. And I'm like, oh, Gluttony is probably going to have bad people. So I want one of the enemy, and his main thing is that he like wobbles around, and then whenever he sees you, he's going to jump up, hover on top of you, and land on top of you. Then another one, I was kind of running out of ideas, so I just did like a armadillo rolling guy, and he just spins. Then we have a sort of wizard that raises his hands and he will shoot these like sort of like electric balls at you, and same with a turret that will shoot the balls like not at you but in like a straight line directly. Now, I made all of these in like a few hours, and I'm like, you know, we're doing good. We're doing good. We're doing amazing. So then he was like, oh, now that we have the enemies, let's make the levels. And we could make the levels, but then I'm like, I don't really know what I want to make for the levels exactly. What if we make the different level themes? There are 7 different deadly sins. I don't know if they're exactly the layers of hell and like Dante's Inferno and such. There's 7 different deadly sins. And you know what else there's 7 of? Colors of the rainbow. So I'm like, what if we make different backgrounds and tile maps for each of the different levels? And we were going to have 7 levels. Each of them will have a different color and theme based around the 7 deadly sins. Now for the tile map, I used this one from Wabi Wabo. You guys should check it out. I'll have a link down in the description. And after grabbing it, I went into Sprite and recolored them into all the different colors of the rainbow. Now let's go through each of the different colors as well as the backgrounds I made for them. The first one is white, not color of the rainbow, but it's going to be for the tutorial area because the mechanics, conceptually in my mind at this point, I'm like, they might be a little complicated. I don't know how it's exactly going to feel. I made a game before, years before, and one of the hardest part was teaching people it. So I thought it would be good to have one for the tutorial level. And for the background, I want to do parallax background. So each of them is going to have different layers. And this is going to be back the layer and the top one. This is before they even enter the first layer of hell. It's like level 0. On the surface before they go down. Now the second one was going to be red wrath. I think that association makes the most sense. And for the backgrounds, we have a lot of these I try to like scribble as quickly as possible. In my mind, this is supposed to be like a falling waterfall of lava, river of lava. Then we have some like skulls that would like move around in the back, and then we have some like stalactites and stalagmites to give it a sort of like cave inferno feel. Not bad, pretty good in my opinion for the speed. Then we have orange, which I believe is gluttony. And for that one, for the furthest background, I did a bunch of like food, some like giant piles of spaghetti, forks, knives, spoons, then some of these big guys as the middle ground, and then the foreground, we have some like, I don't know what this looks like. This is one of the heads, like on a platter. This one was supposed to be a turkey, but kind of looks like an animal, and this is like a snout, like some sort of rat. But that was one for gluttony. Then the third one was going to be greed, yellow. And I really like this one. This one I gave this sort of like factory, city, industrial capitalism theming. Here the factories in the back, smoke coming out. Then in the middle some like buildings with some stock lines going up and down. And finally just like windows as if you're inside a building looking at this on the outside. Then we have green, which I decided to make envy. Even though usually green, there's that whole thing with the great Gatsby, right? That green is like the classic like green light. Was that envy? Was that where it came to my mind? Well, the back I made a bunch of eyes. I wasn't sure how to visualize envy. This one of the main things was usually since I was trying to visualize it, and in my mind it's like the mal de ojo, the thing of like, oh, they have like evil eyes looking at you and they like want what you have and all that stuff. So the furthest back I made some like green eyes. Then the middle, it's a bunch of like cyclops looking guys, single eyed guys, and they looking at you. And then in the front I just did some vines because I thought it fit pretty well. That one didn't have much symbolism behind it. Then we have sloth as blue because blue gave sleepy vibes to me. And the Starry Night as back. Sheep jumping over a fence, like counting sheep in the middle. And at the front, some guys sleeping in beds. Pretty simple. Then purple, pride. Here we have some giant like sun stars because I was thinking of actually Leos. How their like symbol, I think it's for Leos maybe, but like lions and such, and a lot of times like the prideful characters in media have like sun as their symbol. So I made some like purple suns in the back. Then in the midground I made some statues because maybe that's more related to vanity, but I made some statues of like some demons and such, being like, oh yeah, maybe they're prideful and they have statues of themselves. And then in front some like pillars of like marble or something. Then finally, the last one is pink, which is lust. This isn't the order of the levels themselves, it's just the order that I made it in. And the furthest back is sort of like a club DJ booth sort of scene. Then the middle is a bunch of people that would be moving around. And then all the way at the front is just like some lights and lasers. Now these would all be parallax backgrounds, and each of them would have their colored tile sets. And even though it's a minor thing, I'm like, it's kind of nice. I think it's kind of nice to add some little like flair of like extra like artistic uniqueness to each level, even though it's like minor to like do the color swaps. Kind of nice. And after I made all that, I'm like, okay, we have all the enemies, we have the levels, and my friend once again was like, you know, now we have all that, you should probably make the levels themselves. They're the most important part. You should make the levels. And I'm like, yeah, I could. And it is the second to last day. Like it was due on like Sunday at 12. It was like Saturday at like 6 now. I'm like, but what if we made music? What if we made music for each level? Wait, and I decided it'd be cool if each level had its own unique soundtrack. Now, I don't make music. I make music like before-ish. Like I made a diss track of my friend once. I made some music for my old games, but it's never been good. And each of these, I tried to get it done in 15 to 20 minutes or less. Now, let's hear the first one. It loops. Now, I was trying to go for heavy metal, and with each of these, I tried to go for different genres or like different sort of styles that I thought would be more fitting of what the category was, or like what the synth was associated with it. Now, it's not the best. I think it's okay. It's not that good. I think it's not like bad. The way I explain it in my mind is that I feel like it has a decent foundation, and with a few more minutes, like 30 minutes more, I can probably refine it so it loops better and it flows better. This one is one of the worst ones. Not sure what I was going for there. Maybe some tubas. Now, Sloth. I was going for more of a lullaby style thing with this one. I think it came out decent. Lust, this one I went more for like a club themed vibe. Dance. You see, I like, Now, I think most of that is like decent, like the synths and the idea itself is like fine, but the like the transition, not good. But once again, it's fine. It works for its purposes. This is probably maybe one of the best ones. Now, that one I tried to use like a paper counter thing at the start, and I also use a lot more of like outside sounds that aren't just like instruments, like the laughing and all that, and I think it fit pretty well. Then Envy. Now, this is probably one of my favorite ones, not because it's particularly good, but because with most of these, I would just use my keyboard as a sort of like MIDI piano key in like BandLabs, and I would just like play something out, and if it was decent, I'm like, yep, we're good to go. And this is probably one of the best results from that. Then we have Pride. With this one, I was thinking more of like marching bands and such. I think I have a decent, honestly, not bad. And then finally, time stop. Every time that the character would like use the time stop ability, I wanted this to play. Now it is a lot longer time stop ability because I think they can only hold it for like 6 seconds. But yeah, it's fine. That's pretty much it. It just loops out. Now, I think it was pretty good. It's not like the best, but honestly, it goes back to what I was saying, that I think it's kind of fun that each of the levels has its own theme of like color, sin level, sin, one of the sins, and music. Like, even though we haven't gotten to the actual gameplay yet, at this point we had what, I think we had like 12 hours left, and we haven't gotten to gameplay yet, but it was so unique. Like, you know, each of them had its own custom thing, each level that didn't exist yet. Now, this is around where my friend finished the art for the character. They made all the animations for this character. This is the bounce pad, and this was the final boss was gonna be. Now here, 12 hours. We still did not know what any of the levels would be. We didn't even know what the final boss fight was going to be like. We told him to make a final boss, and he made this character with some animations, and we're like, how's it even going to work? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? So, my friend, he's been telling me to make the levels this whole time. 12 hours left. I'm like, okay, now we should probably make the levels. Like, someone should have told me earlier. We should probably make the levels. So I start off and I make this level, which is my first level. And honestly, the main thing that I was going for, this is for the green one, if you guys can tell by the yellow. And it was sort of like, the idea was that you would go up and up and up and down and then crash down. And it was supposed to mimic sort of like a stock chart. Now, how long do you guys think it took me to make this level? 3, 2, 1, 3 hours. It took me 3 hours to make this level. It's not even that good. Well, you guys are gonna see. You guys can see. Now, with 12 hours left, we now have 9 hours left. My friend took a nap in this time, and he was like, "Okay, you need help." So he was gonna be in charge of figuring out what we're gonna do with the boss fight, and I was gonna make the other 6 levels and the tutorial. Now, I'm gonna pull up the game and show you guys sort of how it ended up. Now, this cover art, my friend made as well after, and let's go into it. For the tutorial level, I think it came out pretty good. The background, it has a parallax effect, and we ended up using the bunny as a sort of like tutorial NPC. It tells you some information, how to play the game, with the different thing that you can left click and right click to spawn different bounce paths. Left click is up and down, and then right click is left and right. And it also tells you that E time stop, boom, you can move under that. They would usually hurt you. As well as you can use the bounce pad to kill enemies. And this last one tells you can use bounce pad to reflect projectiles as a sort of defensive thing. I am horrible. Okay. Then it gives you a final message to be like, oh, get all the way to the end, and that's our story, because it had a grading level for like the story. That's basically the story, and then it just goes on the levels. 0 to level 1, Wrath. Now, I'll give you guys some time during this level. I'm gonna play through it, and I want you guys to see if you can figure out what the biggest mistake I made was during level design. And you guys can let me know what you think, at least. I'll let you know what, in my opinion, what it was, but you guys can let me know. We go here, simple. You guys can see the cool parallax with the lava. Not bad. There's some guy here. There's some simple. We can pause time to make it easier. You still take damage to the spikes with pause time. That was like a last minute change. You go up, and then boom, he's gonna drop down. Who knows what's down here? And also, if you die in the middle of here, boom, you respawn. There's like checkpoints. So all the monsters respawn as well, but it's fine. Ow. And then here, there's like a laser thing, kind of incentivizing you to use the time stop. And then here's like, oh, this platform. And then there's just a bunch of guys. There's a bunch of guys. Let me get back up there real quick. Now here, technically you can just time stop and go past them and go to the next level. Now we've gone through that. What was the part that like made that level not work? Now, in my mind, it is mainly a few things. I'd say mainly 2. 1, how do I move around here? Oh, 1 is that we don't really use the countdown theme that much, or like the time stop, I mean. I feel like in a lot of it, you can just go through it, not even use the ability throughout basically every level and the whole game. That's one of the most glaring issues. And 2, if you guys notice it, a lot of the level, you can't really see what's happening next. And in a lot of parts, it's sort of like, you go through it once, you take damage or you die, and then the second time around, you kind of are like, okay, this is what's going to happen. But then it feels more like one of those rage troll games than an actual platformer that was supposed to be. A clear example of it, in my opinion, is in the, I forgot what number it is, maybe it's 3? This one. Now, We start off, boom. It's trying to teach you or like remind you about the bouncing back. But if you notice that, let's restart here. You don't see anything. Then it attacks you. And a lot of times it'll attack you before you're even able to see it. Now, is that a good sign? I don't think so. Then here once again, you don't see anything, you don't see anything, you don't see anything. You're like, okay, I'll drop down. Boom. These guys are attacking you. Now, are they that hard to take out? Not really, but it's sort of like a knowledge check. Every single of these levels ends up being like a knowledge check related. Not bad. Like, not as intended. But, well, it was something that could come out good. My two favorite levels, probably, is the last two levels, the sixth and seventh one. The sixth one is more of what I think the game should have been. This level, I don't know, it's purely parkour. There's no enemies. It is just about maneuvering around the level. Why do I say that it should have been more like this? Because I think this mechanic itself of the bounce pad is pretty fun. So if we like delve deeper into it, expanded it more, I think just a movement play based like platformer game would have been actually pretty nice. But then it comes around to like, when do we use the countdown mechanics in that situation? Now, the other level I think is really good, and now it's showing you what my friend did with the boss fight, is the final level. Now, I'm just a sucker for these situations where it's like, it's silent. Nothing. The music's gone. Each level has its custom music that I spend so much time on. And now here, nothing. Oh, the rabbit's back. What's up with the rabbits? Oh my goodness. It turns out he was the boss all along. And here you can use the time slot to make it easier. It's kind of impossible without it. But it is is it sort of like Undertale? It's sort of like Undertale. But it's sort of like Undertale or like those like other games. It's just like area of damage, dodge area of damage. And here it uses the movement of the bounce pads you have to use in order to get to the safe zones in time. Now this level I think is solid. And I think basing the whole game to something more like this and movement or parkour would have been a lot more interesting. But even so, I must say that I love how the game came out. I love the way that each level has this like unique design of like tile map, background music, and I end up weaving in the different enemies to different levels. Like in each level I introduced a new enemy in the order that I showed you guys earlier. And then having the fifth level, this one just being like a combination of all the enemies, because before this you only saw one enemy per level, so it's the first time that they get like combined into a known level that you can fight them together at full power. Now, with all that said, I think it came out pretty good. You guys can play for yourself, I'll link in the description. But how did it do in the jam? Honestly, weirdly enough, it did like literally right in the middle. Here you guys can see the chart. It's like a star wise, it's like a even distribution right in the middle. Boom boom ends. And then score wise, slightly above average in some, but like for the most part pretty much dead average. So was spending 4 days with my friends and spending an all-nighter worth it in order to be dead average? Honestly, yeah, because it was really fun. I think I really got them to game dev, and they might try it again in the future. Thank you for watching. Subscribe or watch this next video to see more of the stuff I do. And that's all. Bye.